I'm really excited today because this is session number 27, which means that we started around 27 weeks ago when we are still here. So thank you all the participants and all the previous speakers. Thanks, Steph, for being here today. And I guess we are going to talk about sensory AI. So if it is hard to explain what artificial intelligence is, I guess it's even harder to explain what sensory AI is, but that's why we are all here today. So I will say over to you, and the floor is yours, starting with an introduction. Who is Steph Hamill?
Okay, so I'm not going to jump to the slides yet. I'm going to say hi, guys, and thank you all for joining. So hi. So welcome. Hi, I'm Steph. I am CEO of MettaNoon and a reformed ad human. So the human part is slightly debatable sometimes, to be perfectly honest. But you guys, you're all here and you're probably thinking, oh my God, am I wasting my time? Am I going to get this hour of my life back? Why am I here? And to be frank, I don't blame you. I'm also bored of crummy content online at the moment. There's just so much content for the sake of content right now. So I'm really hoping that you don't feel like that about this. But actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch to slides now. If that's okay. Okay. Because I think they're a little bit more entertaining than me. Oh no, hold on a minute. Sorry guys. That's the last one. You don't want that yet. So here we go. So yes, why do we need sensory AI? And it's a whole new category, and we'll get to that in a bit, because actually some of the audience who are here, and I know some of the people who are going to be picking up afterwards, they actually do see this in a slightly different way. They're more confused by AI than anything right now, let alone this kind of applied intelligence and sensory AI. So I actually want to take a little bet with everyone. I would like to ask everyone that by the end of the hour, that you're going to, I'm going to bet that you're going to learn something valuable about AI, its innovation and how it's impacting your life. And for the super techie people who know far more about AI than I do, I wager that you'll learn something about human behavior and yourself, and how AI innovation may impact parts of your life that you'd not previously considered or thought about. So is everyone up for a little bit of a bet? Would you like to take me up on that? And will you come back to me as a little kind of mini social experiment? Anyone in?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, good. So let's go back. Okay, let's go way back. Because we need to start looking at kind of the way people think to really understand how innovation with sensory AI can be of benefit. And if we go back to kind of Greek philosophy, this is what I mean, kind of starting way back at the beginning. The Greeks were fabulous with their perspective on philosophy, and they had a wonderful knack for storytelling. And we all know who Poseidon is, but do you know of his demigod son, Proteus? Proteus was a bit of a perfectionist, and everything in his home had a place. Everything had a defined purpose, and he wasn't the sort of chap that you would find using a lighter to open a bottle of beer at a barbecue, which is a skill, by the way. Now, Proteus had this kind of really odd habit of showing off his perfect home, his perfect life, and he did it through hospitality. So he'd invite people to stay, showing off this kind of perfect manicured life, this marketing outer layer of perfection, but there was a catch. If you stayed in his guest bedroom, he would chop off your feet if you were too tall to fit in the bed, because the dimensions were the dimensions he deemed perfect and right, because obviously it couldn't be his fault. And, you know, this seems perfectly reasonable, right? You know, how dare someone challenge the perfect outcome of an experience that has taken time and effort and energy and, God forbid, thinking to put a question mark around whether or not it's actually in fact right or perfect for everyone. Now, surely it's the other person's fault, right? But actually, this is quite interesting. we still work like that. We still behave like that with technology. So, for example, Ozzy Osbourne and Prince Charles. Now, an old boss told me the story of Proteus, and he used it in the context of neuromarketing. But actually, it fits well into everything else that we're creating, building, and making now, because one size does not fit all. It never has, it never will. So if you look at Ozzy Osbourne and Prince Charles, they're actually in the same demographic, both in high wealth category, both the same age, both British. You know, it goes on and on and on. And you should go and look this up and find out about it. And these sorts of labels that we're still adhering to in all sorts of technology and AI in particular, they're not. It's proof that we're getting it wrong, and we don't really know how to pave the path for real, true innovation, because we're still going back to these old boxes, labels, and rules. And this brings me to the real kind of start of the talk. Now, AI is impacting all businesses across all industries, all shapes and sizes. And I know that some of the people who are kind of here today don't know that much about AI. So I'm going to do a bit of a précis on how it's going to be innovating us as human beings in the workspace moving forward. So, and this is very much in the sensory AI space. So if you're not accepting or embracing how to prepare yourself or your organization for an AI-led world, you're already behind the curve. And I don't mean to alarm anyone, but it is a fact. And before we go into this kind of deep AI angle, there are a few kind of AI myths I think we should dispel. And also, I just want to say, I know quite a few of the people that are going to be watching this, it's pretty impressive list. So I'd like to say thank you. I got a bit overexcited, but we've got people from the government. We have MPs watching, BBC presenters, heads of Microsoft, Google, WPP, Capita guys, love you guys, Takumi, Wired, favorite, Twitter, it goes on and on, Fast Company, Hakel's, Dom, you are an innovation wizard, RSA Fellows, ASOS, Amazon, Twilio, goes on. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's listening to this, because obviously you understand that actually AI is just one capability, but there are lots of offshots of it that are going to make a big difference, and that's why we're here. So the guys at AI, at Wired, actually, we had a 2-day kind of brain explosion with some incredible thinkers like the futurist Ben Hammersley. And I'm really proud of a quote that came out of my mouth. And it was, it's no longer human versus machine. Our best future is man and machine. And this moment is our opportunity and augmentation delivered to be adopted. So this is all about embracing the fact that actually for too long we've been behaving like Proteus and expecting people to fit into the box of technology that we've created, rather than expecting technology to fit around human beings. And that's exactly where sensory AI comes in. It's more than human-centered. It's based in biometric data, but this is the angle that we're taking. It's all about putting the person first, and every single person is completely unique. So the AI landscape. If you don't know what ML is, because when people say AI, half the time they mean ML, please go and look it up, but we don't have time for that today. But there's not a job description out there right now that isn't looking for some kind of technical know-how or skills. So, you know, computational literacy, etc. You know, it's almost like an expectation that everyone has all these skills. But actually, what's happened post-COVID is we've actually discovered that human-based skills in the workplace are going to be more and more important. And in fact, it's what makes us human that is needed more in the workforce than ever before. And we have an opportunity to change the way we work, to innovate the way we work, to free ourselves up from the heavy lifting, more task-led jobs, and lend that over to automation and AI. So it's these human skills actually that will be most important moving forward. So how many times have you heard a friend say, I feel like a robot, or there aren't enough hours in the day? Well, by adapting AI, innovating how we use AI creatively in the workplace, we will reach a point where work-life balance will become life-work balance, and those weekend kind of 3 a.m. emails and calls, actually imagine if your machine just automatically prioritized them or automatically answered them on your behalf, rather than, and you doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning, or working with someone in Australia and you're feeling you've got to do it immediately, and you get your time back to wait till 9 a.m. rather than frantically feeding your dog, dropping the kids off, scoffing down some toast while replying to your email. This isn't out of reach right now. It sounds a bit dreamy, but actually it's not far away. But only if we are open to the opportunities that AI is offering and not frightened by predefined thinking and scaremongering that a robot is going to take your job. So what's going to happen, and what are the skills we're going to need to innovate our lives in general, not just business? So an innovative mindset, this is going to be key. Are people open to change? Are they agile? Do they embrace change? Can they pivot? Do they celebrate change? And this is where sensory AI will really support in the workplace in particular. We've moved at alarming pace, particularly when it comes to technology. For those of us who embrace this kind of changeable mindset, who are excited by it or naturally drawn to it, there's luck there, because this pace is here to stay. This COVID-esque pace is here. And this is key to technological innovation. But it's key to all areas of life too. And this is important, that you consider being adaptable, flexible, open to new ways of working. For example, the gig economy, agile methodology, growth mindset, adding skills and embracing change as an opportunity to grow personally. EQ. Machines can't EQ. Actually, this one is close to one of our products, but more on that later. I'm sure you all know what EQ is, but our emotion intelligence barometer now, in fact, I'm pretty sure I've got a few exes who would question whether or not I have any EQ, but our emotion intelligence barometer, is essential in a digital world, utterly lacking it. Your EQ is your capacity to be self-aware, emotionally aware, empathetically aware. How are your EQ skills? How are your empathy skills? Are you aware of other people's emotions? Do you work well with others? Oftentimes the people we think of who have high EQ, it's a big bright tick for them in the future workplace, but also they lend themselves to innovative environment. Creativity. So I don't know if anyone saw the results of when a creative director and team went against an AI creative director. The results were hilarious. And AI is great at many things, but creative, non-linear thought, not so much. We dream, we conceive, we conceptualize, and AI is calculus-based rules and can only think within the rules the creators have marked out. So if you can invent and dream, your creativity is an asset for life. So then on to communication. So not entirely the same as EQ, but this is key. Email fatigue is a thing. Sharing information, exchanging insights and intelligence through layers of the work life experience are going to play a huge part, from eye contact to playing with your phone during a meeting. Communication takes many forms, and it's something that innovation will rely upon. Growth mindset. Now, this is something that Hugo and I talk about on a regular basis, but fear is everywhere. Fear is actually the most prevalent emotion to get people to do things, especially post-COVID, actually. So do you think that it's going to help moving forward or with innovation? Growth mindset offers a capacity to develop, to build, to achieve more. And a willingness and eagerness to improve and seek greater knowledge and skills will be more in demand due to diversity of thought and what it brings to the table and the workplace. Diversity and inclusion. So now there's a reason that the MIT Google UX course opened its doors to the world, and not one MIT student hit the top 50. And it comes down to diversity of thought. So if we all come from the same place, how on earth can we innovate? And you know, by being more diverse and open to new ways of thinking, we see the world and opportunities in a whole new light. And hopefully the people see the benefits of inclusivity too. So our thoughts. So well, specifically analytical thought, actually. And I'm not going to get into the whole kind of system 1, system 2 chat, but humans, we're really lazy. We need machines. We don't want to work. Most of the time, our system 1 does the task-led stuff, the computer kind of esque stuff. The things that we actually over time with augmentation will just push to AI. And what this will do, we have a system 2, the creative, the critical, the conceptual, the analytical. And, you know, this takes place and offers valuable insight to split tasks and to create answers and innovation. Now, gut instinct and intuition, any psychologist watching, they would say that actually it doesn't exist, and that our gut instinct is from our background profile and background experience, and that actually from those experiences, that's where gut instinct comes from. But if you can compartmentalize and trust your mind to think logically, you'll be key to the workforce moving forward, and AI will support you to be human and to use your abilities. Decisions. So you know, the big red button will still always remain with a president. It's not going to be that an AI is going to make that decision, and people will stop with people. You know, machines that process the data, our best people will be making critical decisions in terms of business, ethics, policy, and humans are responsible. Decisions are made by accessing data from the machines, and what the machines are providing, they make decisions based on that. So these decisions are complex and often not for the faint-hearted, but they will very much remain in the human realm, supported by innovative technology. And then leadership. Everyone remembers their best teacher, everyone remembers, you know, their best boss, and the workforce is fundamentally going to change forever. Mass redundancies are going to happen next month. We're all preparing ourselves for it. The gig economy will become more commonplace. I can't imagine that IR35 is going to pass next year now or go through, but all this change comes with additional need. And leadership, project management will become, good project management will become more important than ever. People who aren't afraid to tackle issues or seek solutions or even knock down some walls, people who set others up for success and get a kick from helping their teammates get to the top. So with all that in mind, that actually the future is quite bright and there's no reason to be afraid of AI. You know, we've not even cracked how our own brains work yet. And trust me, there are far more, our brains are far more complicated than computers. And actually it goes beyond that. It's embodied cognitism. It's our brains, it's our bodies all talking at the same time. But the old comparison that, you know, our brains are computers could not be more wrong, and has no comparison in a or place in a smart world. So we have an opportunity to embrace AI, to free us up from those dull, demanding, task-led jobs, to be more creative, to flex our minds and to be better people, really, to be more considerate of one another and of our environments. You know, democracy is not far away if we want it to kind of engage. And wouldn't a bit of augmentation be nice, to get time back to eat your lunch away from your desk, or, you know, to actually pay attention to your child rather than be on your phone emailing? So this brings me to talk about MettaNoon and sensory AI and what we're doing with it. And I hope that you'll indulge me with the setup to get here. And you all know Hugo, the fabulous, intelligent, dashing, charming, must not forget charming Hugo. We work together, and in fact, he voted me in as CEO of MettaNoon. You know, I said he's funny. But there are also a few more of us, you know, Fabian, Duncan, Jeff, Nuno, Rod, and we're growing and fast. But MettaNoon started with a thought, and then a conversation, and then a coffee. And like all great ideas, there was more than one person having it at the same time. The marvelous Austin Kleon, author of Still Like an Artist, I was lucky enough to see him speak at South by Southwest, and I saw Jo earlier. I was with her there actually in Austin a number of years ago. He gave this neutral genius a name, and he called it Scenius. And I absolutely love that. I think I've used it in so many meetings because, you know, in this moment of Scenius, MettaNoon started and sensory AI was created. And sensory AI was born from a realization that by taking a fresh approach to technology, we can change the narrative, because this is all about being human first. And for those of you who don't know me, you have a minute to kind of check this out, because it will be boring to those of you who do. But I'm a creative who became a consultant. And after having years of using my superpowers to sell people things that they didn't need for a living, I saw the light. And what we have done within MettaNoon is we have harnessed our superpowers, and we all have them. That's part of innovation, you know, identifying what your superpowers are and bringing it to the fold, and really thinking in non-linear creative ways of how you can solve problems. That's innovation, not waiting until there's a problem to fix or a hole to plug over. It's about looking at what we already have and making it better, or shaking the shit out of it and making it something completely new. So my capability centers around the intersection of what we consider a whole new category, sensory AI. It's a combination of human-centered AI, neuroscience, human behavioural economics, non-linear creative concepts, solutions, and technology. So it's the intersection that is the sweet spot. A very human blend, actually. And in fact, the whole team are the same. We all bring a blended capability to the party, but from completely different lenses. So our vision. Okay, this is a little bit of an overview about sensory AI and the applied kind of elements of it and what we do within MettaNoon. But you know, our definition of sense is broad and considers humans and machines in environmental context. But we use this perspective to amplify and enhance human level sensing and to feed AI and ML algorithms by creating kind of super sensing organizations and proactively adapting products and services. And innovation is in our DNA. Our philosophy is to encourage our clients, our ecosystem, and ourselves to make incremental improvements in order to create exponential results through sensory AI. So we never stop improving our products, and our holistic process is a result of challenging the status quo until it manifests into something entirely new and needed. And essentially, we're the people who know what you want before you do. But also, the way we approach things is to blow it sky high. You know, we'll inspire you to set the bar high and then surpass it. The business world has built walls to confine the potential of AI and SaaS products. And we say that those walls need to come down, and we need to embrace this blend and augmentation. And our philosophy is to encourage our clients, our ecosystem, and ourselves to make incremental improvements in order to create those enormous results. So what is sensory AI and who are MettaNoon? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with our positive methodology, because that actually is key to how we approach what we do and how we create these non-linear opportunities. So positive is based in best strategic design thinking, and is always about being human-centered and having a growth mindset. But positive here, you can see, stands for perspective, orientate, sketch, invest, transduce, iterate, validate, and evaluate. Now, when we work with our partners, what we do is we always identify the problem points, like many people do, and we identify the strategy and the foresight around it. But our perspective is different in that we do take a human lens. This is not about the tech. And we're all in a world where more often than not, we hear people talking about the tech the whole time, but it can do this, it can do that, we can achieve this, we can achieve that. But what does that mean in the human world? What does that mean for people coming out of it? How will that affect someone's real life? And this is ultimately where perspective and orientate, the strategy and the foresight piece for us, is the most important, because it opens us up to that innovative thought, to thinking big, to decentralized creative opportunity. And if you are like us, we are a team who saw problems and issues, and I'll tell you a few stories around that. Now, imagine you're a 45-year-old woman and you're the most incredible developer, well respected, and every time you apply for a job online, you're getting turned down. Whereas when you're being put forward for a job, personally, you're normally hitting it out of the park. So number one, what is the issue there? Number two, imagine if you are someone with a sincere gambling issue and you are calling up the call centers of the gambling company, telling them, I'm going to kill myself. I don't know what to do. Someone's going to have to come and get my dog. And no one's doing anything other than one human at the end of the phone whose hands are tied by law. Now imagine if you are working, you need a loan, and you go onto an app and it very quickly says yes or no, just by running your credit check and seeing how you bank, without realizing that it's a 14-year-old girl who's being bullied, who's grabbed her grandmother's phone or grandfather's phone, downloaded an app, and automatically taken out a credit card or a loan because she's being bullied. Why don't we have weights and measures in place at the moment to deal with issues that real? People trafficking, child abuse. There are people doing things right now, but at a very human level, we're always putting business first rather than people's needs first. And this is where MettaNoon and our ambition for AI for good is key. Now, what we do in our process is different in that alongside our human behavioural science and neuroscience element, we also use biometric data to inform and encourage specific choice and addition or change to our products. They're always adaptable, they're always tech agnostic, but the biometric data imparts the knowledge. Now, we don't see human beings as just human beings. We see human beings as being an AI super system. Now, what this essentially means is that you are not only a superhero in your own right, but your five senses are just the tip of the iceberg. This macro system of sight, sound, taste, touch, feel, all of these elements that we experience in our day-to-day lives. For example, to give you an example, when you go to see a movie and you're immersed in the cinema experience, if the sight and the sound did not align, the experience wouldn't be as impactful for you. Now imagine if you had an experience where all five of those senses were going off at the same time. That experiential experience was something, if you add all of those elements together, it's only amplified. Now, to take it even further, and I do know that someone connected to Steven Soderbergh is going to be watching this, so I have an idea for a completely user-unique or person-unique film experience based on biometric data, so please get in touch if you fancy that, Soderbergh. But what we have here is an opportunity to actually impact people's behaviours. So, for example, most people aren't aware that your microbiome in your stomach, you could eat something for breakfast and you could make a decision based on how your gut reacts to that food, because your gut sends messages to your brain and you make decisions sometimes based on your gut enzyme. Now, if you'd eaten something different for breakfast, you may get a different result. Now, when you consider how absolutely fundamentally unknown or untapped into our human supersense systems are, it unlocks an opportunity around AI that actually is barely touched on. There's a great big gaping hole right now, and that's what sensory AI has identified. Now, going back to this kind of square peg round hole labeling system that we've kind of stuck ourselves in for so long. For example, your email. There's no reason that you still sort by to, from, subject, date, okay? These are things that have been pre-existing for 40 years but haven't changed. Why is that? You look at other industries, for example, aircraft, they're constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly trying to improve. Tesla, you know, Fisher, the new electric cars. These are industries that are constantly moving. But when you look at the tech systems that we're using in our day-to-day lives, there's very little change. You know, we are seeing movement. Cortex Logic, one of our partners, they're doing some fantastic work around, you know, PA systems or human, like amplified Siri-esque type things. But we are still missing this conversation piece around biometric data. For example, Apple released they're releasing the new Apple Watch. Now, I feel like mine's going to be massively out of date, but the 6th series measures blood oxygen levels. Why aren't we embracing all of our data to actually impart how we are experiencing life and making a better version of it for ourselves? And when we say that our microsystem that is completely individual to all of us, people talk about thumbprints being unique, but actually there's nothing more unique than your brain and the way your brain reacts to experiences. You know, you don't just have a thought, you experience something and then you have a thought, and it's completely unique for everyone. There's not one person in the entire world that thinks the way you do. And it's also the same for the way you interact with your car, your phone, your home. And then we take it out again to nature, to our environments that go beyond our microsystems. And you look at how we interact with the data that is coming through. For example, I currently go for my walk every day with my watch in the morning with the dog, and I have to put into my phone that I'm doing my outdoor work, so it's measuring it. But we're going to get to a point where it all automatically understands, you know, from the aggregated data in your phone, it already does. All of this data is already there. We're just not looking at it in innovative ways so that we can think creatively, non-linear ways to come up with ideas that are better for human beings. And that's exactly where sensory AI comes in. Now, the exosystem, that takes it up way above the clouds, quite literally, is actually how we're looking at the planets. We're looking at big data from the satellites up in the sky that are monitoring the Earth, knowing what's going on. You know, a tsunami is rolling in, and that knows before the news is reporting it. And we need to be aware that that type of big data is going to be moving in a way that we need to harness for the good of everyone, not just for business. And then over time, we build up a chronosystem that understands you and becomes, through ML, a better predictive service. It understands your needs, and that is where the intuition that we often believe that we have, the experience piece, may lend itself to being a better service to you. Now, what does this mean for the real world and taking care of things and taking care of people? Now, you've probably all heard about AI helping in sustainable resources and agriculture at the moment. So, for example, you have drones that can read through AI to know when to water things, to know when, you know, what kind of soil benefits are happening right now, what is missing, what is needed. Now, the long-term benefits of that for everyone, you know, when you combine it with desalinization plants, major solar fields, we will have sustainable resources. It's already here. So why aren't we taking it a step further and adopting it? What are we still frightened of? Ethical policy. This is something that we are very, very keen on. We're speaking with a number of MPs at the moment because we're very aware that the AI situation the policymakers are painfully behind the businesses that are using AI, impacting our worlds, impacting our processes, and in part what's going to be happening moving forward over the next 5 to 10 years. If the policymakers are not aware of what's going on, if they don't understand the technology, if we don't make them aware of the good we can do, but also the flip side of that, then we're not doing our jobs properly. It is the responsibility of the innovators. It is the responsibility of the change makers. It is our responsibility to help the good of our social, cultural needs, and to help the policymakers make the right decisions, because right now they're not. Making a difference. To quote Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And that is exactly what AI is. It's a great power, it's a great privilege. And it's something that could absolutely transform our world. We have an opportunity here. We have a major opportunity, and it's something we feel incredibly strongly about, that we can humanize the digital space. Post-COVID, more than ever, people want to feel as though they are protected, that they are connecting to humans through digital. And that's something that has been hugely lacking for a long time. We have seen that pressure cooker period of years happen in months, and this adoption of digital needs to become more human, needs to be seen in a more human light. And we use our creativity to apply sensory AI to digital and physical spaces. What this does is it amplifies this kind of multi-sensorial human experience and everything that we interact with. As I mentioned, you are a super system in your own right. So what we want to do by humanizing our digital spaces, by making them more in tune with ourselves, is that actually nothing's impossible anymore. And we ask our partners to see how they can make a difference, to see what parts of their business that they're doing that they can actually improve from a human perspective. Now, this may mean that product innovation is not as efficient as we are used to. Now, we're typically kind of encouraged to go from A to B as quickly as possible. Now, actually, that doesn't necessarily lend itself to the best innovation and thinking. Now, what we ask is actually, well, in that process of dreaming big and then asking everyone to dream bigger, we break out, we look at the problems, and then we identify ways that we can find solutions without being told the tech can't do that. If I have one more tech kind of lead say to me, oh, but we can't do that, or try to tell me how something works, my response will regularly be, please don't tell me how it works, because then you're going to block my thinking. Then you're going to block how I come up with ideas, because genuinely, we may not be able to do it in the most time efficient way and just do A to B. We may go from A to 5 to Z to 2 to 3, but we may get a better answer at the end of it. So guys, thank you very much. You've had a précis, we could talk about it for hours, and we're going to go into a Q&A, but you've had a précis of humanizing our understanding of AI and not being frightened of it, and actually understanding that it's here to help us. It frees us up to be more human, and then to understand what MettaNoon is doing. Okay, I'm just going to come out of that to understand what MettaNoon is doing, and from there we'll grow and we have opportunity. So Q&A, who wants to chat?
Thank you, Steph. I can go first just to say thank you. I guess we have a few questions here in the room because we have comments here in the chat window. Who wants to go first? I invite all of you to challenge Steph's ideas about EQ, AI, all of this complexity that Steph just shared with us. Feel free to challenge, to question, to comment. We are all here to learn, I guess.
I'm looking at a couple of these right now. So, okay, lots of stuff about the EQ. Okay, so the way that we see this, I'll tackle this one quite quickly. We all know that actually most of the time AI is really ML, and every algorithm that is written is based within calculus rules. If someone's going to come up with a fractal based AI, then we will be able to get into the realms of EQ possibly being a reality within an AI program. But right now, any program that is based within rules is limited to its creative thinking and its emotional thinking, because this is where unconscious bias comes from within our algorithms, and we've seen a lot of that recently. Now, EQ, I'm going to go through these one by one. Emotional competencies, it's questionable. We can consider that a lot of people are completely flawed with their emotional capacity. I have been at times, and that often happens when our system 1 and our system 2 isn't aligned, actually. So when it comes to understanding EQ, again, it comes down to understanding the uniqueness of every individual person. And this is where sensory AI comes into its own. For too long, and I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, we use tech and expect human beings to fit tech, rather than actually using the technology to fit people. Now, if we flip our perspective and how we're looking at it around slightly, what this means is that actually, rather than putting this big hanging expectation around AI going, oh, okay, right, you'll never be able to do the EQ thing, what it might be able to do is do the tasks that take up a lot of our bandwidth and then free us up to really use our EQ skills in the best way possible. Because we're inherently lazy, and system 1, these task-led things that we tend to do and just churn out, replying to emails, driving, etc. When we flip it to system 2, our brain's like, no, I don't want to do that. That's the hard stuff for us. And actually, that is the benefit. So if you've got the free bandwidth and AI is doing that lifting, you've got that opportunity to do that. Also, there's another great thing that an old boss told me, and I'd probably like to bring it up here. Has anyone ever had creative block or writer's block, or you've been trying to work on something, coming up with ideas, and you've been stuck? Yeah. Well, there are lots of different ways to overcome it. So a lot of people go for a run, do something physical. Well, actually, one of the best things you can do is get in the shower. Now, bear with me on this one. Get in the shower, have an orange or a mango or something like a really kind of like messy fruit with a really strong flavor. Get in the shower and eat it while you're in the shower. And what this does, get it all over your face. Because it's all 5 senses going off at the same time, it's like pressing reset on your own computer. And by doing that, what you do is you free up your mind and your blockers to start thinking in a creative way. And the reason I say that is because we're such complex beings. We haven't even started to really unpack how we even work yet. And we're trying to put all of this heavy kind of lifting. Oh, I want a computer to be my EQ or to understand how my emotions behave. We don't even understand that yet. So for people to be frightened that an AI is going to come along or maybe do some of that stuff, you're a long way off, because we've not even mastered ourselves yet.
Okay, I have a few questions here. Who is already leveraging or using AI in the existing projects or in your organization? Who's responsible for AI? I'm curious about the maturity level, because probably we can speak very easily about this, but I guess AI is still not mainstream yet. So where is your organization? Is this something you guys are already talking about, or is this?
So this is it. So we can all talk about it, and we can all have an opinion on it. And we can all do some courses. I'm lucky I've done my Stanford machine learning course. No, you need to speak to the experts. You need to really get underneath the bonnet and have real people who know how it works inside and out. It's all well and good having great ideas, but you need to have a team around you that can support those ambitions, that can support that innovation. So we're very lucky. We have Nuno Henriks, PhD, human-centered expert extraordinaire. Hugo was Hugo's a bit of a genius in the introduction with Nuno, but we also have AI partners. We also have Jacques already done a talk here for Innovation Cafe. He did a masterclass in AI for everyone. And there's another kind of difficulty that we often have to overcome at the moment. People aren't very good at sharing, especially in what they perceive to be tech, next level tech. Oh my God, it can do this. Oh my God, no one else can do that yet. Oh, we're so far ahead of anyone else. Google's definitely going to buy this in 5 years for like 20 billion. Well, are they if you can't really apply it to human beings and how we can get people to use it? And this is the thing that keeps coming up again. If you just have the tech people without the creative solutions thinkers, you're never going to come up with things that innovate and change the market. It's about combining the skills. The best scientists, the best writers, all of these great sciences have come from art thinking and creative thinking. Jules Verne, for example, William Gibson. And it's actually this dream thinking that's then combined, and technologists come along and go, okay, I can do that now. I can think about that. That's the beauty of it. So when you're leveraging AI, it's not just about leveraging AI, it's about leveraging human need and finding where the pressure points are and making sure that we find better answers.
I do have a question, Steph. Brilliant.
Hey, Marco.
We're in session. Great to see you again. So yeah, I do see sensory AI, as you described it, being the next step for AI to be differentiated. And AI, at the end of the day, as you said, it's ML, and it helps to automate at the different levels, tasks, or try to understand the blueprint of a user and try to adapt to that. So and going back to the beginning, when you make the comparison between Prince Charles and Ozzy Osbourne, I guess my question is, how can you track from a data level the EQ, if you like, to get to a point where you can tailor the experience to be more human-centric rather than the blueprint, if you like, of data from that technology lens? Because that would be the challenge, right? So how are you guys working to meet that?
Okay, that's an amazing question. Thank you. And probably one that I should have covered in the talk. So what I mentioned about the biometric data. Now, there are so many sensors out there. For example, Apple have just put the blood oxygen level in reader in their watch. Now, there are so many different things that have been used in neuromarketing and neuroscience for a very long time: ECGs, galvanic skin testing, heart rate monitoring, etc. So we can measure, and in psychology, we can measure through biometric data real outcomes. Now, before, that meant that someone would have to be in a room and in a controlled environment being measured. Now, we're working with the partner, hopefully, coming up. They've put biometric readers for blood oxygen levels in seats at a physical event to understand how those people are reacting emotionally to music with real-time data. Now, I go back to the joke I made about Soderbergh, but actually, if we have a handheld device, iPad, whatever it is, phone, and we're watching or we won't even be watching anymore. We'll be experiencing, because it will be all senses. We'll probably have a scent card put into iPads moving forward. We'll probably have, some kind of taste chip or something, or something we can put a dropper on our tongue, or taste of something, just by putting a hand on a sensor that changes the sensors in your arms, that plays with what you're feeling in your brain or receiving in your brain. But what we can do is actually, by combining all of those reads, we can change the outcome of the experience. Now, when you look at the neuro side of it, and actually human behavioural thinking, this is where interactions are really key. Now, for years in advertising, nudges were used to get you to buy something you didn't need. For example, you'd have been buying a bottle of plastic with shampoo in it that you didn't need, that's going to be ruining the environment, or you're buying a packet of chips that were made with palm oil and has destroyed some kind of creative plantation, destroyed a rainforest. Those techniques and nudges in advertising have been used for years for really bad reasons. But actually, if we can flip the script slightly and start using them for good things, we can help people make good choices. And this comes into a couple of the products we're working on. What we're doing is we're actually watching and seeing how people are interacting with key questions, nudges, etc., but in a positive way, so that we can serve the data back to them and give them self-service, self-awareness, so that they can make the best choices for them. So, for example, if you're about to spend, we've all got these kind of like gamification for saving right now in our bank accounts. For some person, it's a coffee, for some person, it's a bottle of champagne. But at the moment, the gamification process is it's one size fits all. Oh, put this money in here and get another coffee. That doesn't work for me. I don't care about coffee. I want my champagne. And what we can do is, just by actually adapting and putting the user first and paying attention to what they really want, we flip the script and we put people first. And then we listen, and we give them what they want and what they need. And this is the way that sensory AI, when it's coupled with human behavioural, economics, and biometric data, when we get to the space where we can do both, people will have the most incredible immersive experiences.
We have a question here, Steph. How might we better prepare ourselves as humans for AI to support, augment us? Is there anything we can be doing today to improve our appetite for this future?
Oh my God, this is so bang on, Mahesh. Hi. Okay, so that quote that I kind of gave you guys from the Wired thing, it's not man versus, or human versus robot, or human versus machine anymore. We really need to get that scaremongering fear out of our heads. You're already using AI the whole time. You just don't know it yet, right? You're just not aware of it. And what this means is, if those task-led roles, so for example, going back to what I said about your email account, I really hope Google and Microsoft are doing this right now, because I'm, the seniors is a thing. But if I could just voice to my Siri in the morning and say, hey Siri, could you please order my emails and my day in order of priority, please? And how long it takes me to do things, or the meetings I've already got scheduled, or so on and so forth, right? If you could just do that, can you imagine, number one, how much time it'd save? Then number two, if it could do the automated responding back to people, when do you want a meeting? Okay, right, there are some windows here. Okay, I'll pop it in. It's a preliminary. I've not checked it with Steph yet, but I'm her virtual PA. I'm just going to do it. Cool, done. If those silly, and they are silly because all the data's there already for our systems to do this. We've just not created the technology to fit for people. It's not fit for purpose, to be perfectly honest. It's not changed for 40 years. But that's just a really small way of doing it. Now, how often do you hear people say, I feel like a robot, I don't have enough hours in the day. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have made that decision. I can't do my job properly. I never have enough time, or any of these things. Now imagine if those boring task-led things were taken away and you had time to do your job properly. For example, if you're in HR and you're having to sort through 500 applicants for one role, one, you're not going to do it. Okay, let's be honest. Two, you may have an AI search keyword system that does it, and they are hugely flawed at the moment, right? And then you're going to look at the people you've got left. How much time does it give you to actually interview those people properly and to use your skills as a human being to communicate and to talk and to get the best out of people? You know, if I were in HR and I had something doing that heavy lifting for me and helping me in my process so that I could be a human being and have human to human experiences and conversations, I would want that. I would want to do my job properly and I'd want to get time back. And in Germany, I was living in Berlin before I got back to London, but they actually say life-work balance, not work-life balance. And that's something I think we should all take from this, that actually we're living in a pressure cooker of constantly being online. You know, during COVID, the number of people you talk to who'd be like, I feel like I've just got to sit on my laptop the whole time so people can think I'm here. Or for people to, you know, to think I'm working right now. I'm actually having lunch, but I'm still on my laptop. I'm on Teams, it's green. And this is something that keeps happening, right? And you know, why should you be working 16 hours a day? That's not the world we should be living in. You know, I want to enjoy my breakfast. I want to take the dog for a walk. I don't want to have to be on green all day for fear that people think I'm slacking. So this is where AI can become part of our day-to-day lives to augment so that we can be freed up to have those chats. You know, all those meetings that people keep scheduling, you wouldn't feel so bad about them if you didn't have to do all those other tasks on top of it afterwards. You know, you'd enjoy those meetings a bit more if you weren't worried that, you know, you wouldn't have enough time in the day afterwards. So actually, let's utilize what's available to us and think about it in a different way.
All right, we are running out of time, which is good. Any questions? One last question. Benedict, you are so quiet today. Nuno, you are an AI master. It would be good to
Oh, come on, Nuno, you've got to give me one.
Everybody's a bit shy today. It's okay. That's fine. All right, so Steph, thank you very much. I guess this was another masterclass of sensory AI, not just AI. And I hope to see you all next week. We are going to talk about, I don't remember, let me check here. We are going to talk about the lean startup methodology. And the person who is going to talk about it is the person who invented the lean startup game. So there's actually a cardboard game where we can play around and learn the lean startup methodology, which is quite popular in startups. Large organizations are still learning how to do it without falling back to a project management mindset and way of working. So the father of the lean startup game will be here. And today, one of the head of innovations from Airbus just confirmed he's going to be here sharing with us what he's doing, what his role is, and how Airbus is addressing corporate innovation. So we are getting more and more knowledge of how to innovate. So thank you to all of you that participate, and of course speakers such as you, Steph. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope to see you all next week, if not before.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. Goodbye. Have a good evening.